Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. We'll come back to brand a new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. Benjamin Sesko is happening before the Euros. Now, according to Florian Plettenberg, but also according to Sky Sports Germany, Arsenal, amongst other clubs, all want to sign Benjamin Sesko before the Euros, before his release clause expires, which stands at 65 million euros. Going to be diving into the latest stories on this one, but also I want us to talk about a little bit of Victor Osimhen because, of course, there's been a lot of talk around him in the last 24 hours from Italy, confirming that Arsenal are still there and they're still waiting for a decision on the Benjamin Sesko, deal. So probably, if Benjamin Sesko chooses another club, or if Benjamin Sesko goes to another club, we might see Arsenal moving for Osimhen. But at the moment, according to Florian Plettenberg, Arsenal are pushing to sign Sesko. They want this deal before the Euros, and they want this deal right here and now. Leipzig also want to keep him, so we're going to be keeping an eye on that one as well. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 80,000 subscribers. Remarkable numbers that we have done on this channel ever since we've started. And big up to everyone, big up to the little ones who have been on the page, despite the fact that we've been as inconsistent as they come. Right, so let's get into it. Let's start off with the story from Florian Plettenberg in Germany. He basically works for Sky. Sky Germany, and is one of the journalists that I really trust when it comes to a German story. So Florian Plettenberg has come out and confirmed that AFC Arsenal pushing to sign Benjamin Sesko, but we've been told there is no final decision yet. Many clubs are keen on him. The 21-year-old striker is on the list of Manchester United. I'm surprised that Manchester United are in for him. Interest is concrete as Manchester United have inquired about Sesko. Chelsea are also monitoring him, so there is a lot of competition and there is a lot going on. The release clause that we are talking about, expires in June, and that is 65 million euros. By the end of June, Sesko will no longer be available for 65 million euros. And the last statement here is that Leipzig bosses, they love him, they want him to stay. It's an open race. All parties involved want a decision before the Euros. So this deal is happening before the Euros. This deal is happening before the next 13 days. Today is the 1st of June. The Euros kick off on the 14th of June. So you have an exciting 13 days for us to see what happens with Benjamin Sesko. Another story comes in from another Sky Sports German, reporter, and that is Philip Hinz. And again, literally he confirms the same story. I'm just going to give him a follow right here. He confirms the same story that has been put out by, by his, senior Florian Plettenberg. And he says Benjamin Sesko, several Premier League clubs want him. Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, all involved. But RB Leipzig also want to keep him, and they are not giving up. Leipzig wants to extend his contract, thus to remove the release clause this summer. Sesko has neither given green light, a green light, or rejected, RB Leipzig's proposal. Current status: Sesko 21. He is available until the end of the June for his release clause. Basically, all parties involved want clarity before the Euros. Sesko, one of the most talented strikers on the market right now, he has already turned down 2 requests from Saudi Arabia. Interesting reads there. Interesting, stories from the boys in Germany. And I've got to say, I wanted something from Germany. I wanted a journalist to come out and give us something, in Germany, because we've been listening to a lot of, stories in the UK, in England. John Crossmira at the Mirror, that's in the UK. Sammy McPearl from the Daily Mail, that is in the UK as well. And I'm not trying to say that they're not credible. I'm not trying to say that they are not as good. But I think for a German-based story, it's better to listen from German sources. And I was waiting for Florian Plettenberg like never before. It's the same thing with an Italian story on Osimhen yesterday. Fabrizio and Di Marzio coming out and giving us important information on Osimhen that I've reported, by the way, today in an earlier video. Make sure you do check that out. But also, that means that you have credible sources in Italy giving you credible information on the Osimhen story. So with Sesko, it's going to happen before the Euros. It must happen before the Euros because according to all parties, according to Plattenberg, all parties involved want a decision before the Euros, and this is the reason why all parties want this deal to happen before the Euros and why it will happen before the Euros. Before we get into Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man United, who has a bigger chance, when you think about this deal, what comes to mind? For me, what comes to mind is that Benjamin Sesko is going to be joining up with Slovenia on the 14th of June. And that is when he's not joining up with Slovenia on the 14th. That is when the Euros are kicking off. So he's got to play around 3 games in the group stages of the Euros. Most probably, they might not go through to the next round. But if they go through, basically, by the time he's done with the Euros, his release clause is going to be over, right? So the only way you get him by triggering his release clause is before the Euros. During the Euros, his release clause is going to be expiring, and we know that you're not going to distract a player in his camp. You're not going to be summoning him out of his camp, negotiating with him, during the his Slovenian stay in the camp, for the Euros. It's not going to happen. They're not going to give you the time. They're not going to give you the attention to negotiate a deal. So you're going to use these 10 days, or it's a deal of. Now, for me, I've said this. There is a Euro tax that is going to be looming across Europe. Arsenal must avoid that Euro tax as much as possible. And there are 2 ways to avoid the Euro tax. Number one, you can sign a player like Sesko before the Euros. He's still going to be 55 million, and no one will have seen his good performances, his stellar performances in the Euros. That is one of the ways you avoid the Euro tax. Secondly, the second way you avoid the Euro tax is by signing players that are not in the Euros. But of course, there is no guarantee that because a player has not played in the Euros and because a player has not played in the Copa America, edition of this year, you're actually going to get them at a cheaper price, right? If the players that have gone to Copa America and the Euros become expensive, you expect all the players in that similar position to become expensive as well. We know how it works. Kylian Mbappe is expensive, and therefore almost every single forward now in the world is expensive. From Paul Pogba, almost every midfielder, every good midfielder right now is 100 million. So I think Arsenal are trying to avoid the Euros tax, and we must avoid the Euros tax. And one way to do that is signing our targets before the Euros. Now, are we going to get a decision before the Euros? I think we already have a decision, and I think RB Leipzig have been informed of the players' decision and attraction to Arsenal. And again, I want to say this: I think Leipzig believe they can keep him. I think they believe it's a deal they can do. They can extend his contract, and that's why they're saying, regardless of Arsenal, regardless of Chelsea, regardless of Man United, we are gonna be here. We want to see if we can extend his deal. We want to be here until the end, right? So then they're not going to go away. I think because they have that release clause, which is 65 million euros, which is kind of cheap, it puts them in a very difficult situation. Why? If Arsenal decide to trigger it and agree personal terms, like we know the player already loves the project, then it's game over for Leipzig. So they don't have a lot of power in negotiations on this deal. The power they have only extends to can we drag negotiations until the end of June, until his contract or current release clause expires. That's what they can do, right? So I think this deal is happening before the end of June. I think this deal is going to happen before the Euros. Now, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal. I've seen a few people say, well, why would he go to Manchester United? Well, why would he go to Chelsea? Why would he not go to Arsenal? And all that kind of, talk. And I want to respect that kind of talk because Arsenal is the better project. Arsenal is the more exciting project of at the moment. But then you've got to ask the question: have Arsenal signed players before without European football? Have Arsenal signed players before without a clear project, right? Without without a project that is winning, without a project that is organized. Yes, we have, and we've signed players of the profile of Ben Sesko. You can argue that Gabriel Magalhaes came in, I think it was 2022 summer, sorry, 2020 summer, or yeah, I think in the summer of 2020. Arsenal were at the same level as Man United, and we were even below the prospect of this Chelsea side, of this Chelsea project. So Sesko can very much go to Manchester United. Sesko can very much go to Chelsea. I want us to be realistic here. Arsenal are ahead. Arsenal are pushing to sign him, and we are pushing to get that deal done before the Euros. But so are Chelsea, and so are Man United. And one thing we know with Chelsea is that they can hijack deals. Arsenal can agree the deal with the player, and they can also agree a deal with RB Leipzig if the player communicates to them that he's going to be leaving and not staying. And then Chelsea can trigger, his release clause. That's the problem with this deal. Anyone that triggers the release clause has the power. And I won't be surprised to see, a couple of clubs, Man United maybe, Chelsea too, and a couple of other clubs, even Tottenham, trigger the release clause of Ben Sesko. I won't be surprised to see. I think the real woe, since 3 clubs are interested and 3 big giants are interested, the real way is going to become convincing the player to your project and money. How much are you going to give him? How much are you going to give him? How much are you going to pay him? How much are his wages? That is going to be, a big decider. I'll give you an example. Newcastle have been on the verge of signing Tosin Adribayo on a free basically. He's a free agent. Then somewhere, Manchester United tried to hijack the deal, but they kind of failed. I think Tosin Adribayo has looked at both projects, Newcastle and Man United, and he's gone, I think Newcastle is the better project. From nowhere, in the last few hours, Chelsea have agreed a deal with Tosin Adribayo. They have hijacked the final stages deal of Newcastle. They have gone ahead of Manchester United, and they're in the final stages of signing Tosin Adribayo. So you understand what I'm talking about? A release clause that is so near. This is a low-hanging fruit. Honestly, this is not a king's ransom. This is 65 million. This is less than what we signed Kai Havertz for. Honestly, this is less than the Kai Havertz signing. So 65 million is peanuts to Man United. It is peanuts to Arsenal, and it's peanuts to Chelsea. If they're in the right place, the right side of the scale for financial fair play. So Arsenal must act quick, and we must act very smart and very brilliant. We must make sure that we have left no stones unturned on the player side, and we must make sure that we have left no stones unturned on RB Leipzig side. And one of the things that I fear for us is that we don't want to pay the release clause of the player fully. We just want to negotiate with RB Leipzig. That is not bad. It would be smart for you to get Sesko for less than 55 million, which is in his release clause. But the problem with that is we don't have a willing seller in RB Leipzig. So we want to steal the player. But in terms of stealing the player, we have big eyes watching. If a bigger club than Arsenal, let's say Bayern, let's say, which other club could want a striker and have a good project? Madrid. Do you see him going to Madrid? I don't see him going to Madrid. But let's say Madrid. Let's just say Madrid. If Madrid or Bayern come into this deal, these clubs are absolutely top-notch when it comes to cracking such deals. They will trigger his release clause, or they will offer RB Leipzig 60 million euros plus a sell-on percentage. They're definitely not going to find a big difficulties in agreeing personal terms. Anyone wants to play for Madrid, anyone wants to play for Bayern, and the deal will be done within a fortnight. Remember what happened with Mikhailo Modric. So I think Arsenal have to be quick, and Arsenal have to be very smart as we do this deal. But of course, just remind you that we are having news from Germany, from Florian Plattenberg, confirming that Arsenal are pushing to sign Benjamin Sesko before the Euros. And we have been told that there is no final decision yet. Many clubs are keen on him. The 21-year-old striker is on the list of Manchester United, and the interest from Manchester United is very, very rare. We are also being told that Chelsea have been monitoring him for quite some time, and his release clause will be 65 million euros, and that will expire by the end of June. If Arsenal want to get him, they must trigger that release clause. Leipzig bosses want him, they love him, they want him to stay, and it's an open race, and all parties involved want a decision to be made before the Euros. That is the big story we are talking about, and I think Arsenal are still in the driving seat of this one. On a scale of 1 to 10, or in terms of percentages, I would say Arsenal sign Benjamin Sesko right now, it's 70%. 70% he goes to Arsenal. 10% he remains at 10% he moves to either Chelsea or Man United. 20% he remains at RB Leipzig, right? And of course, it is still very early for us to determine, whether Leipzig have, done any kind of, I would say, impact in terms of the negotiations they've had with the player to make sure that he actually stays. But interesting stuff, very, very interesting stuff when it comes to this story. Now, Augustine says, you can trigger a release clause, but if the player doesn't want to play for you, the club will not accept it. It is about the player, bro. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you trigger the release clause, if many of the clubs trigger the release clause of the player in Europe, they have a big chance of attracting Sesko. Now, I'm not saying anyone who triggers the release clause takes him. Personal terms are very key, and I've talked about this before on an earlier video that with release clauses, it's the personal terms that matter. It's the player's preference that matters, right? You agree with the player, you basically have cracked the code. You basically have cracked the deal. So I'm not saying anyone that cracks or breaks the release clause has the player. It's on the player side, but also, with the stiff competition we have, if you trigger the release clause first and other clubs are unwilling to trigger the release clause, then you never know, right? But I think most of the clubs will want to trigger his release clause. He's still very, very young, and 65 million euros sounds like a bargain, honestly. It truly, really sounds like a bargain. And as if say some reports contradict, the Florian Plettenberg story is the latest story that has actually come out. And I think it is the first story we have seen in the last week or so to come out of Germany. It's the last, it's the last one. I think Fabrizio has said Arsenal very much interested, but there is also interest in Osimhen. So we are going to see. But also, Fabrizio said that this is a decision that is going to come before the Euros. So I don't think there's a lot of contradiction, with this one. Okay, big up to you, Josh Josiah. The update is 100%, non-true, says Freddie. Big up to you, Anu, in the comment box below. Swahib says, thanks, Cossy, for the show. Watching in from the West now. Esma says, waiting for Arsenal to make big deals. I mean, it really depends if you're going to see big deals this summer. The reports that we might not see big stellar deals. But again, for me, that depends on the opportunities on the market, and that depends on what we want to do this summer. If Mikel Arteta thinks that it is time for us to go with for the big ones, the big deals, then we'll do the big ones. But if he thinks he wants us to spread out the signings and do 4-5 signings for around 30 million, 40 million, then we might not see very big signings. Because I'm looking at stories quoting Youssef Fofana's interest, Arsenal's interest in Youssef Fofana. I'm looking at stories quoting, I think it was Joshua Zirkzee, right? It was Joshua Zirkzee as well. So when you look at the players we're linked with some high-profile targets like Osimhen, and then we are linked with what I would call the low-profile targets, like the likes of Sesko, the likes of Zirkzee, the likes of Youssef Fofana and the others. But I will be very, very intrigued to see what comes out of that. Now, if the Benjamin Sesko deal doesn't happen, if Sesko doesn't move to Arsenal, there is a likelihood that Arsenal go back in for Victor Osimhen. Yesterday, it was reported by Fabrizio and Di Marzio, both from Italy, that Arsenal is still very much interested in Victor Osimhen, and there is mutual admirance between, or mutual admiration between Arsenal and Osimhen, and a deal is not 100% off. For Fabrizio Romano's update, he thinks Arsenal are still deliberating internally, right? Whether Osimhen would be a very, very good choice. So you never know. By the end of their deliberation, Sesko could be gone, right? By the time Arsenal finish deliberating how much we want to pay, how much we want to offer for Sesko, maybe someone like Chelsea has signed him. Maybe someone like Man United has signed him, right? So Osimhen is a name that is being discussed internally at Arsenal, and the manager says it's one or the other. Arsenal either sign Sesko or Osimhen. At the moment, they're prioritizing Sesko, and they think this deal is easier and it could happen quickly. But also, if Sesko doesn't happen, Osimhen could happen. Now, for me, honestly, I think it should be the other way around. But I think we're dealing with the budget here, and I've talked about this in the morning. I think Arsenal are very cautious of what they want to spend on a striker. Arsenal are very cautious on what they want to spend this summer. Kai Havertz just said in an interview that he sees himself as a number 9 for Germany, and he sees himself as a number 9 for for Arsenal in the long run. So that is why Osimhen is not option one. But in real world, right? In real world, Sesko should be number 2 in terms of transfer targets, and Osimhen should be option number 1 for Arsenal. If you look at what we want to do, if you look at what Arsenal are looking to achieve, you cannot have Sesko as option 1 and Osimhen as option 2. It should be the other way around. But I think it's about the price, and I think it's about the availability and opportunities on the market. So very interesting stories coming out today. I still want to get your thoughts in the comment box below. Let me know what you think about Sesko. It could be an early deal. It could be a deal that Arsenal avoid, the Euros tax. I would love to see that. I would love to see, one of our main targets coming before the Euros, so that we don't overpay crazy amounts of money because he's played in the Euros. I never understand how players become very expensive because of a tournament. I really, really, really never understand it. It's like crazy, right? It's like crazy how players just become very expensive after one tournament. He's had a very good season for me, at RB Leipzig, especially the second part of the campaign. It's been very good. The first part of the campaign, not very good. But if he goes in the Euros and he scores 4 goals, right, and that release clause is gone, we might be talking about 78 million. We might be talking about 78 million, right? So I think that's what Arsenal are trying to do. Avoid the Euros tax as much as possible. Avoid paying huge, ridiculous fees as much as possible. So Sesko could be your striker by the end of this, month. If Arsenal can get that deal done, then the transfer window has really, really started. Now, I want us to compare the chances of Manchester United, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Who has the bigger chances of getting him, and who am I more afraid of in terms of this transfer? Let's start off with Manchester United. United have a striker already in Rasmus Højlund, but their forward line needs a lot of reinforcements. I think Sesko could go to Manchester United under these circumstances. United could offer him the chance to play almost every single week. I think Arsenal might not be able to offer him that, because with Kai Havertz there, Martinelli, Trossard, and Saka, I think Sesko is coming to push the boundaries. He's coming to push for a place in the starting 11 rather than having an automatic start, an automatic starting position, in the Arsenal team. So for me, Man United have a big chance because of first team football and the ability to convince him that he's going to be playing every single week. When it comes to Chelsea, their forward line is a little bit, I think, confusing. They've got a Christopher Nkunku there, and they've got a Nicholas Jackson there. The arrival of a new manager means that a player like Ben Sesko will have to get a direct call from Enzo Maresca telling him and convincing him that you are coming to Chelsea because I want you, and you're going to be my guy. You're going to be my main man. This is my future. This is my team. This is my project, and I see you as part of that project, right? So that is how that conversation should go. So in terms of offering first choice football, I think he might go to Chelsea because Chelsea have a slightly much better project than Man United. And because he wants to play as a number 9 and he has been a second striker to Openda and he doesn't want to be a second striker to Rasmus Højlund, and I think he might fancy himself to be better than Nicholas Jackson in terms of guaranteed football, in terms of guaranteed week in week out action. Chelsea have a bigger chance there. So Chelsea are leading in terms of who is ready to play him every single week. That's number 1. Number 2, trophies. And yes, Chelsea can win a trophy next season. And yes, Man United have won trophies. But as a young player, you're asking yourself, where can I go in my career right now and, win some silverware, win some early silverware in my career? It's why we've always said Jude Bellingham, he's not coming to Arsenal, he's going to Madrid because Madrid can guarantee him trophies. Erling Haaland is going to Man City because Man City can guarantee him trophies. Until last summer, when we signed the likes of Declan Rice came to Arsenal because, one, he knew the project is very close to completion and he knew that this project is very close to winning trophies. I think in terms of that project that is ripe, the project that is ready to give you success, Benjamin Sesko is going to choose Arsenal over Man United and over Chelsea. With Chelsea, they've got around 3 years to build under that new manager, get his philosophy, get his culture, get his discipline, and everything. With Manchester United, they don't even have a squad. They don't even have the players. They just have a manager. They have 1, 2, 3 good players, and the rest of the players are crap. So in terms of development, in terms of early trophies, Arsenal are leading. So if Sesko thinks about trophies, if he thinks about winning, right from 21 to maybe 30 years of age, Arsenal is the right project. In terms of career development, this is more down to the manager, the coaching staff, and the trajectory of the club. In terms of career development, I don't know who's the better manager in terms of man management and also improving players. For you, is it Maresca? We don't know much about Enzo Maresca. So is it Ten Hag or is it Mikel Arteta? We have seen Mikel Arteta turn players' careers around, and we have seen Mikel Arteta turn players from average to superstar, or from very good to exponentially very good, right? You look at Odegaard, improved. Ben White, improved. Gabriel Magalhaes, improved. William Saliba, improved. We can talk about many others, right? So if Sesko is thinking about his development, personal development as a player, there are 2 managers to consider, right? 2 managers who have been in their jobs for quite some time. That is Ten Hag and Mikel Arteta. And I cannot lie, Eric Ten Hag as well has done some good job in terms of individual talent. Kobe Mainu, Alejandro Garnacho, who else? Talk to me in the comment box below. Who else has Ten Hag improved? But in terms of personal development, the right place for Sesko to be would be Arsenal. So if you want to develop, you want to go into an environment that allows you to flourish. You want to go into an environment that is organized, calm. There are not going to be many disruptions. And the manager has got very good job security. So that is Arsenal. So when I compare Chelsea to Man United and Arsenal and RB Leipzig, I think we really stand a big chance. With Leipzig, they're his current bosses. I think they might pull the loyalty plug. That is what might happen, right? They might tell him, "Listen, we have nurtured you. We have got you from wherever you've come from. We would like you to stay here for another year, right? And then we promise next season we are going to let you go." In most cases, most people think that there is no loyalty anymore in football. I kind of disagree. I think there is football loyalty, a lot of loyalty in football. I think we still see players refuse to sign for for big money, just to stay at their clubs and help them out. So Sesko could as well stay at RB Leipzig if Leipzig really have a very good proposal for him on the table, but also if Arsenal are not willing to really push hard. But if Arsenal are pushing hard, like we are being told, by Plettenberg, then I don't see how this deal doesn't really happen. I'll be surprised that it doesn't happen. Update me on Martin Zubimendi. Vic says Garnacho, we should sign Sesko or Osimhen, says, Erot. And then Vianney says Bruno Guimaraes, Sesko or Osimhen, right winger and left back. I'll tell you what, Cossy, if we sign these people, Arsenal next season may end up being unbeaten. Yeah, you think we might go unbeaten if we make the signings you've actually said. I mean, it's very interesting. Now, an update. Someone wants an update on Someone wants an update on Zubimendi. Now, I'm gonna say this. The latest on Martin Zubimendi is that he's set to reject Arsenal for the second or third time, consistently or consecutively. We might not see him coming at Arsenal because he wants to stay in Spain and he would want to play in the La Liga, right? And this way, we might not see a lot of stories on Martin Zubimendi. We might, look, he's a very, very good option, available. Release clause, I think, around 65 million euros as well. But if the player doesn't want to move, you can't force them. It's as simple as that. Eric says Bruno Guimaraes updates. And Guy says Osimhen will flop like Shevchenko and Griezmann to Chelsea from Italy. I prefer Sesko to Victor Osimhen. Eric says the Bruno Guimaraes update. There's nothing to say about Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle have said we don't want to sell, right? We don't want to sell, but anyone that wants to take him, you must sign him by triggering his release clause, which is 100 million, agree personal terms with the player, then you convince him to join you. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And then it is as complicated as that because it's not easy to part with 100 million for a player like, for a player like Guimaraes. John says, Cossy, Arsenal need Polish striker. That's all. Then it should challenge Manchester City. Stanley says, hi, Cossy, Osimhen is all we need. Okay, I've given you a Bruno Guimaraes update. Now, Osimhen will flop like Shevchenko and Griezmann. Thank you so much for bringing up that comment because it takes me to who has a bigger chance of flourishing in the Premier League if we compared the two. Is it Benjamin Sesko or is it Victor Osimhen, right? Talk to me in the comment box below. Who has the bigger chance of flourishing, right? Who has the bigger chance of flourishing, of adapting to the Premier League? Is it Sesko? Is it Osimhen? If you're saying Sesko, why is Sesko the player that will adapt to the Premier League? If you're saying Osimhen, why? And why are you saying that Osimhen will flop like Shevchenko and and the likes of the other players you're talking about? Now, for me, what does the Premier League require? Let's look at some of the successful strikers that have come in at in the Premier League. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, successful. Alexander Lacazette, unsuccessful. When you think about physicality, energy, power, Lacazette has a lot of power. Aubameyang, not really a lot of power. Diego Costa, successful. Fernando Torres, successful. I don't know I don't know how I'll rank Romelu Lukaku because we'll leave out Romelu Lukaku. Sergio Aguero, short, successful, right? Erling Haaland, successful. So when we think about all the strikers that have been successful in the Premier League, coming in from Spain and coming in from the La Liga, what are some of the attributes they actually share? And what are some of the attributes they share with Ben Sesko and Osimhen? One, they are smart players. All the players we've talked about are very brilliant players in terms of bending their runs, timing their runs, consistently making the right choice and consistently running into the right areas. That is why Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang would score goals all the time because of his positioning, and Alexander Lacazette, who you thought, by the way, because of his build, would be such a mega striker for Arsenal, eventually failed because Lacazette's positioning was absolutely of a League Two player, like Ray Keane says, of a League Two player. Aubameyang's positioning, top notch. Aguero's positioning, top notch. The second, apart from the intelligence and the brilliance in movement, consistency, right? And that is one thing we have seen from Osimhen. Now, both of them are intelligent players for me. I wouldn't really want to say that one of them is not intelligent. Both of them are intelligent. But in terms of Osimhen, I don't think anyone has a valid reason to tell us that Osimhen comes in at Arsenal and they don't flourish and Osimhen doesn't actually shine. What is the reason? He's banged in goals for Lille. He's been banging goals for Napoli, and he's been banging goals for Racing Charleroi. So you look at his trail in the last 3 clubs he's played for, averaging double figures for all the clubs he's been at in the last 3, career parts of his career. I don't really get why people would say Osimhen will flop. Actually, for me, the player I would be afraid for is Sesko. It's not Osimhen, right? Because I'm thinking that Osimhen coming into this Arsenal side, he's not coming in to score your beauties, your worldies, right? That's not what you're bringing him for. What you're bringing in with Osimhen, and I've said this, that with Osimhen, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting from him as a player. With Osimhen, you're getting a player who's going to make consistent runs in behind, and with very, very cool finishing. I don't see him as a Premier League flop anyway. I don't see him as a profile that would flop in the Premier League. No way. Margaret says, thanks, Cossy, says Kambaza. Margaret says, let's buy Sesko and Danny Olmo. I love Danny Olmo. Obviously, I'm a big Spain fan, so I know much about Danny Olmo. And you're saying then a top quality midfielder to help Rice, Jorginho. Jorginho is not trusted. Cannot help Rice to win us the trophy. I'm just going to get to you, Margaret. Vic says Osimhen is injury prone. Plus, he is he is one head injury away from retiring. This is insane. Like, this is blasphemy. This is literally lying, right? This is lying on a player's career. This is lying about a player, right? And it is utter deception. Victor Osimhen, I don't think he is as injury prone as you want to put it. I don't think he is. Yes, he picks up some injuries, right? He picks up some injuries, but all players do. He's a player who can play 30 games in a campaign. And with squads and rotation, that should be enough. So I don't think it's one head injury away from, a career disaster. I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. I think it's a lie. I think you're lying because you don't like Osimhen. I think you're lying because Osimhen is not your preferred option. I think it's okay for you to say, Cossy, I don't like Osimhen. He's not my preferred option. But don't come here telling me that he's one head injury away from his career end. I'm not buying into that. Now, Margaret says that Arsenal should sign Danny Olmo 100%. Like, if we had links with Danny Olmo, I would be excited. But there are no links between Arsenal and Danny Olmo. You don't trust Jorginho. It's surprising that you don't trust Jorginho. Yet he's had such a very interesting campaign and such a very, very good campaign. Now, I'm not trying to say that Jorginho has the legs and has the energy and power to chase down the likes of, Guimaraes on the pitch and things like that, and players like that in the opposition. But I think he's given us a reason to believe in him. And there is a reason as to why Mikel Arteta has given him a new deal. He trusts him, and we can trust him. Honestly, we can trust him. I wouldn't really say, Georgina is a player I don't trust. It would be a lie. Cossy alive, I love Brand Bobby's physicality, says, Mwebeza. Brand Bobby, he doesn't really speak to my interests, right? But his playing style is not bad. Right. So he doesn't really speak to my interests, but his playing style, his physicality, his pace, they are actually not bad. Vianney says, Cossy, for the time I have supported Arsenal, I haven't seen it using a full finisher and shines. All the wingers that have shined at Arsenal are either winger like, or ball players. You have not. When did you start supporting Arsenal? We've got to ask the question, because the people who watched Thierry Henry, right? Of course, if you're saying that Thierry Henry is still winger-like, I might understand that. What about Adebayo? I mean, he didn't do the longevity thing. He didn't do it for a long time, but we can consider him successful. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, we could say he was successful, really, right? We could say he was successful, and he gave us some top seasons. Do you want to say Aubameyang is winger-like? I wouldn't say Aubameyang is winger like. Yes, can play on the wing, and Arteta's played him there before, but I don't think it was to his satisfaction. Eduardo, right? Eduardo da Silva. Again, Eduardo was a successful striker until he picked up that injury. I think we have seen some good. I think we have seen some good strikers at Arsenal, but I hear you, because the history of Arsenal signing number nines has been horrendous. Like Yaya Sanogo, horrendous. Marwan Chamak, not good enough. Giroud, by the time he was at Arsenal, Olivier Giroud, he wasn't good enough. Bentina, not good enough, not close to being good enough. Alexander Lacazette, a flop. So those are around 5 signings for centre forwards that have Arsenal brought in, and I've not even talked about the likes of Park Chu-young, right? Strikers that just disappeared out of thin air. So I hear you. I think our record when it comes to strikers has not been that strong, and maybe we need one that's going to rewrite history. But I also think that Arsenal have done some good striker deals. Noel Arsenal says we have strikers like Podolski and Robin van Persie. Van Persie started off as a winger, so he's saying that most of the players that have thrived have been forwards that have been winger-like or ball-playing players. I think Lucas Podolski didn't really thrive. I wouldn't say Podolski was a success. Van Persie was a success, but not for many seasons, and he played predominantly as a striker until his later days in his Arsenal career. Eduardo, Vianney says Eduardo was a ball player. He was for it was more of a number 9, wasn't he? William says stop that number 9. Okay. Anoa says, okay, let's see. Vianney says Alba winger like. Thierry Henry was also winger like. I think, yeah, Adebayo was not winger like. Adebayo was was pure number 9 stuff. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what some of the other people were saying. I don't think it's injury prone, Osimhen. I don't think Osimhen is injury prone. It's a lie. It's a lie. Noel Arsenal says if Arsenal should sign a striker, that means we should sign someone who could give us 20 plus goals, because we scored like up to 100 goals this season. That's what I would have wanted. I mean, that's what any Arsenal fan would have wanted. A striker that goes, boom, 30 goals, boom, 20 goals. But that would require you to spend a big, chunk of your budget. And that would require you to make big changes, which may include dropping Kai Havertz. I don't think Mikel Arteta is actually a big fan of the idea of dropping Kai Havertz, right? So Arsenal, just to remind you of what we have been covering in this episode. According to Florian Plettenberg, Arsenal are pushing to sign Benjamin Sesko. We have been told that there's no final decision yet, Many clubs are keen on him. The 21-year-old striker is on the list of Manchester United. Interest from Man United is concrete, as United have inquired about Sesko. Chelsea are also monitoring the player. There's a release clause until the end of June that will see all clubs pay 65 million euros if they want to sign him. RB Leipzig posters love him. They want him to stay, and it's an open race, and all parties involved want this guy to sign before the Euros. So that means a deal should be struck within the next 13 days. So I'll keep you posted on this one. I'll keep you posted on the Osimhen one, but I'll keep you posted on every Arsenal story that comes out there. Do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 80,000. Remarkable numbers there. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give you give us your support. Vianney says, because I see Sesko having characteristics of being like a winger, of being a winger-like, and may work for us. Well, he's got the ability to play across the forward line, if that's what you're trying to say. He's got the ability to play across the forward line. The only question is if he's got the ability to give Arsenal more than how many goals? How many goals would we want in in Sesko? More than 20 plus goals this season, right? Because he's not done it yet. He's not done it yet. Yes, we love him, we like him, but he's actually not done it yet. So that is where the scare would actually come in. Yeah. That's where the scare would actually come in. Okay. So thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button for me, and I'll speak to you right in the next one.